With the midterm elections looming and the presidential race about to bear down upon us in what will feel like days instead of months, the Republican Party continues to try and figure out what they must do in order to recapture the nation and make their party the one in power. In their effort to grab millennials, Hispanics, and African Americans, Republicans may be missing a key part of the American demographic, one that can indeed help turn an election. We'll talk about this and the latest from the Middle East as we welcome to MidPoint a former Iraq War veteran who is now a candidate for the House of Representatives in California. Elan Carr joins us today. Mr. Carr, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good morning, and good afternoon to us, and good morning to you, of course.
Yes,
we do want
right.
to talk a little bit about what's happening with the Republicans and with the Jewish contingent that is in the Republican Party right now, but I cannot start anyplace else but knowing certainly that as you look at your website, there is a picture of you and your family actually in the Middle East. So I can only imagine that much of your thinking right now is in the Middle East, where the missiles are flying once again and there are people dying again in what is simply an unending conflict, it seems, between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Should there not be someone trying to get something done here to at least bring some sort of a stop to the missiles flying? Because it seems Hamas does not want to stop shooting.
Well, it's horrendous. I just received an alert on my phone a few moments ago indicating that yet another rocket slammed into yet another population center. And you know, you talked about the Jewish constituency. I don't think this is a Jewish issue. I think all Americans and all decent, peace-loving people throughout the world have to be thinking about Israel today and the women and children of Israel who are traumatized, air raid sirens and running into bomb shelters. And this is just incomprehensible to live this way in a country that's a beacon of peace and democracy and freedom in the Middle East. And it's outrageous. And the United States has to stand unequivocally and unwaveringly with Israel as Israel attempts to defend itself.
As we then have that point, the United States standing with Israel, in your mind then, if you were an elected official in authority, in a position to influence what happens here, what should the United States do? Because right now there are some people who are saying that John Kerry should stay home. The United States should stay out of it right now.
Well, I think the United States should express very strong support for Israel's right to self-defense. The right of a country to self-defense is enshrined, of course, in the United Nations Charter. It's a matter of international law. And Israel is exercising its right to defend its people and its families from what is really a violent, dangerous terrorist organization that now has the capacity to launch rockets into Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, thanks to Iran. I mean, this is has been for years an Iranian proxy, an Iranian-funded terrorist organization, and it's a grave danger. I mean, Hamas and its funders, its prior funders, Iran, represent a tremendous threat not only to Israel but to the United States and to democracy throughout the world. And so we need to act to protect ourselves by supporting Israel and allowing Israel to do what it needs to do, which is to defeat a dangerous terrorist organization.
Would you stand with those who, quite frankly, have taken the president to task here in the last couple of months? Certainly it's been even longer than that. Basically saying that he needs to stop pussyfooting with Hamas and basically call them what they are, a dangerous terrorist organization, and stop trying to, in essence, cuddle up to them and soften his tone towards them?
Well, I was deeply dismayed by the administration's statement made through the State Department that we are going to be working with the PA Hamas unity government. And right after the PA and the Hamas swore in this new unity government, the State Department called it, well, it's a technocratic government and we're going to continue to work with them. Well, a few days later, this so-called technocratic government, through one of its Hamas spokespersons, issued a statement calling on Hamas to attack and kidnap and kill Israelis. And then a few days after that, just a few days after that, 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped and murdered. Kids who were doing nothing, who were not a threat to anybody. They were murdered in cold blood. And this is right after the United States, in effect, endorsed a PA Hamas unity government. And I think that's the wrong message to send. Just like it was the wrong message to send not to support the moderate Syrian opposition, and just like it was the wrong message to send not to continue working with the Sunni tribes in Iraq. And the results of our absence from leadership in the Middle East is clear. The region is aflame, and our foreign policy interests have grievously suffered over the last few years. And frankly, you just shake your head at the retreat America has shown in a region that really stands to either, on one hand, grow and prosper, or on the other hand, turn into a disaster that threatens our families and their security. And so we really need to get our act together.
With specific interest then to what's happening right now in Israel, how insulting is it to you and to other members of the Jewish community, Jewish Americans, those who have roots back in Israel, that this president and this administration has not put that foot forward to get right, to put the hammer down on Hamas at this point and talk about just how brutal they are?
Well, I think what the United States needs to do is condemn Hamas and call it what it is, which is a dangerous terrorist organization with the blood of innocents on its hand, countless innocents on its hands, number one. Number two, we need to provide Israel with all of the support and material it needs to undertake and execute its self-defense operations decisively. It's of no interest to have Israel suffer casualties and conduct this operation like so many previous operations, and then end it with a pressured ceasefire that doesn't really change the facts on the ground. Israel needs to win this conflict. Hamas is a danger to Israel and to the United States, and we have to make sure that Israel has the freedom to defend itself. And defending itself in this case means seriously damaging Hamas's capability of continuing this war against the only democracy in the Middle East.
Would you then be in favor of Israel putting troops immediately, of course they already have troops on the ground in Gaza, but putting more ground troops involved and having America then get involved in helping the Israelis with whatever form of effort they might need, or any sort of goods or intelligence, whatever they might need at that point, to simply go in and finish the job?
Well, I think what Israel needs is American support and American moral support and financial support in terms of military assistance that we give to Israel every year. Israel doesn't need the United States to be involved on the ground. Israel doesn't need U.S. troops committed. Thank goodness Israel has a strong, good, professional, decent army that follows the rules of war and the law of armed conflict. And so Israel knows what to do and knows how to handle itself and defend itself. But we need to make sure Israel's right to self-defense is not in any way constrained, because Israel does have the right to defend itself. And so we have to make sure, both in terms of our own statements and our own conduct and in terms of our votes in the UN Security Council, we have to make sure that Israel has the unfettered right to self-defense that we, the United States, enjoy and that every country enjoys under international law. And that right is sacrosanct, and Israel needs to be able to defend itself. Now, in terms of whether I favor a ground operation, that's a matter for the IDF and the elected Israeli government to decide. I'm confident that if Israel decides that the only way to destroy Hamas's capacity to wage this war against Israel's cities, which is what this is, it's a war against citizens and cities. It's appalling. If Israel decides that a ground operation is necessary, I'm confident they will do that. They will do what's necessary, including ground forces. And we need to stand with Israel and say Israel has a right to do this.
Couple of minutes we have left here. You were the top vote getter in the June primary for the open seat. That's CA 33, currently held by Henry Waxman. There is, however, a story that caught our attention. I'm certain that it caught yours as well, because excluding the soon-to-be retired Eric Cantor, there are now 31 Jewish members of Congress, 30 of them Democrats, and an independent senator from Vermont, Bernard Sanders, who generally votes with Democrats. There is the prospect of having no Republican Jews in the House and the Senate, and some people are saying that is because of some of the uber right-wing portion of the Republican Party, that they need to back down a little bit and be a little more welcoming to the Jewish community in the Republican Party. How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think that it was an accident of demographics and of various shifts in various districts and electorates. But I think that needs to change, because it's not healthy for the Republican Party, and it's not healthy for the Jewish constituency in America not to have any Jewish Republicans on Capitol Hill. We need both parties to be diverse, and we need every constituency represented on Capitol Hill. That's healthy for both parties. And so I think that it is very, very important that we elect other Jewish Republicans to be part of the fabric of the Republican Party on Capitol Hill. I'll say something else also about Eric Cantor, because Eric Cantor, although he was, of course, a partisan, I mean, he was the Republican leader of the House, it's very important to note that when it comes to Israel and the U.S.-Israel relationship, Eric Cantor was really a bipartisan leader. The work he did together with Steny Hoyer was remarkable, admirable, and tremendously impactful. And so in losing Eric Cantor, not only did we, America, I don't mean we, the Jewish community, we, America, lost the only Jewish Republican on Capitol Hill, but we lost an undisputed bipartisan leader on the U.S.-Israel relationship, and that is deeply dangerous for the U.S.-Israel relationship. And so we need to elect committed Republicans and Democrats who are going to make this issue a priority and do what's right by standing up in a bipartisan way with the State of Israel and ensuring that the U.S.-Israel relationship is stronger than ever. And I intend to be that kind of congressman.
Elan Carr, we are unfortunately out of time, but please, let's come back and do this again. I have a feeling that we have a lot more to talk about, and we need a lot more time to do it. Good luck in the race, and we thank you again for your time. All right. Let's also point out that there are those who say that it is a right-wing party, and they need to be more accommodating to their Jewish voters as well. That's a discussion that we'll carry for another day. All right, next up, our man on a suitcase checks in from Europe, where Vladimir Putin seems to be pulling one of the oldest con jobs in the books, double dealing on everybody. That and more as MidPoint continues.